Hey guys, subscribe for daily content. And if you're shopping for gear, make sure you check out the description for the newest items at some of the very best online retailers. There's also links for some of the items that I personally recommend. Thanks!
What's going on YouTube? Metal Complex here, and today I've got a very interesting knife review / knife overview to share with you guys. This is the WE Knives limited edition button lock Ziffius. I'm very excited about this knife. A lot of stuff that WE does, just the same as any other company, honestly, is hit or miss. But one area that I felt like they have not done the most amazing job of is in their limited edition department. Those have always felt a little bit underwhelming. Wow, they did a great job with this. Last I checked, which was just about an hour ago, these were available. By the time you guys are watching this, because all of my content is pre-recorded, it might be a couple of weeks later, but I will link this right down below so you guys can check it out if you want to. This is a limited edition, so I think it's limited to 310 pieces or so. My guess is it'll still be there if you're watching this on the day that it uploaded. Thanks so much to WE Knives for sending this in for me to take a look at. Thanks to my patrons for supporting me, and please make sure to follow me on Instagram at metal_complex. Let's go ahead and get a measurement of this knife. It kind of shocked me. I don't know why I thought it would just be 8 inches, but actually it's about 8.5. In fact, it's a little bit longer. It's almost 8.6 inches overall. Blade length is, 3.75 inches is what I'm seeing, and 3.25 inches of cutting edge. So I think a lot of people will be happy about that, especially if you like knives that are on the larger side. Size comparisons up against the Ontario Wrap Model 1 and the Ontario Wrap Model 2. So you can see here it definitely is on the larger side. How about up against the Spyderco PM2 and the Spyderco Para 3? There we go. We forgot about the Demco 80-20.5, so I'm going to toss that one in here real quick. Awesome. And last but not least, the Benchmade Griptilian, or in this case, the Ritter Hogue, and the Benchmade Bug Out. Alrighty, how's the action? That is one of the main things that I want to talk about here. This is a really good looking knife, but really what does it for me, what I think is the most amazing, is absolutely 100% the action. And I know you're thinking, Complex, it's a button lock. I mean, it was really cool whenever the Malibu came out and it was like a newer thing, but if you've handled one button lock, you've handled them all. I thought the exact same thing. I thought, great, another button lock, right? This is different. And it's not just me saying this. I said this right when I unboxed it. I was like, what is going on with this thing? It is the most crisp, clean, just ultra satisfying. They have tuned this thing to the heavens. As soon as you depress that button, which has low travel, that blade swings shut, and it makes the most satisfying click into the closed position. Really, with the plunge lock acting as the detent here, a nice click, which usually with a button lock you get kind of a thud or a crunch, and then the breakaway is so crisp, and the lockout into the open position. It's one of those things where there's nothing that I can say or do on camera that's going to do it justice, right? You can take my word for it or not take my word for it, but wow, it's really something spectacular. The action is phenomenal. I wouldn't change anything. And the nice thing is that it also has thumb studs, which are also tuned perfectly for this knife. It doesn't matter however you want to deploy it. It works flawlessly. It's very, very good. Let's go ahead and do carry profile. So thickness up against the Spyderco Para 3. You can see here, it's actually a little bit thinner than the Spyderco Para 3, which is kind of interesting. I didn't think that would be the case. Length and height up against the PM2 and Para 3. It's actually longer than both, slightly longer than the PM2. Height-wise, it does get pretty tall in areas, right? But if you're used to carrying the PM2, outside of the fact that this is a little heavier because it comes standard in titanium, it really shouldn't be that much of a bother. If you're used to carrying smaller knives, this might feel a little bit big to you. Let's go ahead and measure blade stock thickness since the calipers are right here and I don't want to lose them. Oh, good. We have these. This is set incorrectly. There we go. So blade stock thickness probably on the thinner side, coming in at, it says 123. My guess is it's more like 125, and the calipers are just a bit wonky. Materials. What are we looking at for materials here? My flashlight has for some reason completely escaped me. Nope, it's right here. So we're going to take a look at the inside real quick. No internal milling, but there is a slot carved out to accommodate for this backspacer, which we are definitely going to talk about. So we're looking at titanium and a wraparound carbon fiber backspacer, which is really, really cool. And then as far as the steel goes, we have, if we can actually see it, I don't know if I can even see it zoomed in on the camera. There we go, CPM at 20 CV, and by the way, they are numbered right here. So CPM 20 CV, carbon fiber, titanium, right? It's kind of what you expect at this price point. It's just kind of the shape that they take and the amount of work that goes into it that makes it a little more interesting. Weight comes in at, honestly, kind of a surprising 4.09 ounces. That's not something that really bothers me. It's not a perfect ratio, but 3.75 inches of blade for 4.09 ounces is pretty darn good. And the balance on it is also very, very good. I mean, it's balanced right where you're going to have your index finger. So in hand, it really doesn't even feel that heavy. Let's go ahead and do a hardware check. I'm going to get out my tools. As per usual, my tools are very inexpensive and very recommendable. You can find them right down in the section of my description that talks about the tools I use on this channel. Boy, the new, it's so faint. I can never see it on camera. T8 is what I'm going to use here for the pivot. And then the body screws are also, well, the backspacer. I mean, you have two on each side. It's not pinned at the spine since the backspacer goes all the way around, and then this just clips into the frame, which is cool. So we're not adding any additional screws at all above what I consider to be minimum, which is a couple on each side. And one of those screws is the pocket clip, which is really cool. You know what? Before we proceed, I want to see if this pocket clip is actually nested into the carbon fiber, because if it isn't, then that means that the pocket clip can go on the other side, and that would be a big deal, because then lefties can wear this how they want it, right? So let's go ahead and take a look here real quick. I took a glance at it before I started the video and thought, yeah, no way. Yeah, unfortunately that's nested. You know, all they had to do was just carve that slot out on the other side, which I know some people don't like to look at. And I'm sure that the designer was like, no, I don't want to put that there because it kind of kills the flow of the design. I just feel like that's a really minimal thing. And that is I mean, if you want to be dramatic and call it a sacrifice, right? Well, that's a sacrifice that I'm sure all the lefties would be willing to make, right? And as a right-handed person who doesn't care about those slots, that's a sacrifice I would have been willing to make as well. So this is a limited edition knife that is specific to right-handed people, even though right-handed button locks are, in my opinion, actually easier to operate with the index finger on my left hand. So yeah, that's kind of a bummer, but it is what it is, right? Okay, we did the hardware check. We did all that. Yeah, minimal hardware. This should be really easy to take apart and put back together, by the way. Okay, meat and potatoes time. This is a really good looking knife. I mean, if you don't like these blade shapes, that's, it's your own opinion there, but I really like how this looks. I mean, we have a super classic handle profile, right? Just about as knifey a knife handle has ever been, right? But it works. Very, very comfortable ergonomics. All of this. Look at all, like the chamfering and then the rounding that's been done on every corner. There's not an uncomfortable spot on this entire knife. And thank goodness this forward choil is a real forward choil. You can actually get in there and safely lock in your index finger. It is magnificently complemented by the jimping leading up to this little ramp here, this little notch, right? So this position right here is extremely comfortable as well. So however you want to hold it, it's fine. There's plenty of real estate. It's just really good. The ergonomics on this are awesome, and there's plenty to fill the hand. Just amazing. The ergos are so good. Access to this thumb stud is also very good on either side, whether you want to do the reverse flick or you want to do the thumb flick, right? Either way. I love what we have got going on here with the aesthetic design. I know that this really comes down to individual opinion, right? But we've got enough busyness, but not so much busyness that it looks like half the knife is going nuts and the other side is kind of, sometimes that's the case. It's also an aesthetic that works really, really well no matter which color variation you get of this, because believe me, there are multiple variants of this and they all look pretty good. They all have the carbon fiber backspacer, except for the super fancy Damasteel ones. They have kind of the plasma anno backspacer. Let me make a note here. All of their knives seem to be like significantly higher. I mean, I should say significantly. A lot of them are priced a lot higher than I would want them to be at, right? But especially the Damasteel variants, right? When you get the special version of the special version, right? They're like 300 plus more. if you're going to do that, I think you should be using a different material, like how you guys did carbon fiber for the standard special edition ones. And then for the super ones, you did Damasteel, which is great. Everybody loves Damasteel. But if you're going to charge that much, you need to be complementing it with a more exotic material. Use Damascus or use zirconium, right? There are other companies manufacturing knives out of China who are using those materials in combination with Damasteel and hitting a similar price point, right? It would certainly make people feel a little bit better about spending that type of money. And maybe I'm pushing it a little hard there, right? Even when we see knives manufactured in China, when we see Damasteel combined with zirconium and Damascus, they're actually a little bit more, right? So either the Damasteel variants need to come down a little bit, or maybe charge slightly more and add a more exotic material, because the material that's on there is not Damascus. It just looks like it because it's got kind of that multicolor plasma anno look. I always forget what it's actually called, but it's just titanium with a surface. Well, even Damascus is just surface anno. That's the color there, right? But it is factually layers, right? Or when it's zirconium, you get a really cool, interesting look. It's usually polished, but zirconium costs more money than titanium, right? So does Damascus. So what I'm saying is we need to make the special versions a little bit more special if we're going to charge that kind of money, right? As of right now, I would recommend that you ignore the Damasteel variants and go, if you're going to go for this, go for the standard versions, because they just make a lot more sense price-wise. Anyways, the titanium has kind of a bead blasting to it. I really like this little anno line that kind of follows the backspacer on either side. It's just a nice little accent, adds a little bit of color where it would otherwise, just be a simple transition from titanium to carbon fiber. Where it does transition from titanium to carbon fiber, it is perfect. There are no flaws, no weird gaps or anything like that. I mean, there is, but it's the exact same gap, right? It's an intentional, like it's all fitted perfectly is what I'm trying to say here. There is a little bit of a plasma anno pivot color, and if you're wondering what I mean by that, you can see here, at first glance, it might actually look like Damascus, but it's not. It's just kind of that, it looks like liquid magic is kind of what it looks like, right? Or liquid electricity. But, it looks good. I like the accent there. It's nice. The blade is hesitant to call it hand rub satin finish. It might actually be, but we have the horizontal lines, which is generally an indicator of a hand rub satin finish. We have kind of a machine flat, right? And then sort of I don't know if it's just like a satin finish up on the swedge. It's technically 3 different finishes there. And then we have what I'm going to call a Wharncliffe blade. I'm sure that people will have a whole bunch of different names, whatever. Here's what it looks like, right? It kind of looks like a bird's beak. I like it. If you're actually going to EDC it, these are the styles of blades that I like. One straight edge, which makes it really easy to sharpen, right? Not going to be excellent in all slicing situations because there's no curvature to the blade, but it will get through whatever it is that you're trying to cut. Draw cuts especially are going to be great. And the edge does get pretty darn thin. WE is one of those companies where if you get a satin finish blade and it's 20 CV, the Rockwell hardness is likely going to be 59 to 61, I think. 59 is a little nah. I think that at this price point, a lot of people say, oh, well, it's Chinese production. This is premium Chinese production. 20 CV should be hitting 60 to 62, in my opinion. When you coat it, right, it doesn't matter who's doing it. It's always dropping 1 Rockwell hardness within the range. So in the case of WE, instead of 59-61, the coated versions are 58 to 60, which is not great. I think it should be 60 to 62 for your uncoated blades and 59-61 for your coated blades, right, to just sort of keep it fair. But any 20 CV, obviously geometry plays a role. I'm going to want it at 60 or higher. That's just me personally, just my opinion. I'm not a metallurgist, right, just throwing my stuff out there. But yeah. The blade geometry is great, though, and this will undoubtedly work very, very well in an EDC setting, and it'll also be a super cool, shiny conversation piece that is very fun to play with. The carbon fiber looks phenomenal. I love this idea. This is one of the coolest things about this knife. The backspacer wraps all the way around instead of being sandwiched between the 2 pieces of titanium. This does not add any utilitarian benefit. It literally just looks cool, and it's one of those elements that knife collectors enjoy. If you're going to pay this type of money and go after a special edition knife, it's nice to have special edition elements rather than just another WE knife that comes with a certificate, which, by the way, this does come with a certificate of authenticity and the serial numbers on it, instead of just a regular WE knife that's got a couple of different anode parts on it and then they call it a special edition knife. This is what we want. We want these things with the weird elements. They're not going to be elements that cater to everybody, but they are elements that make them different from the standard production WE knives, right? You're going to pay a premium for this stuff, and it's not going to be that, like I said, it has no utilitarian benefit, and the value is going to vary from person to person. But the people who want to buy this stuff, this is the kind of stuff that they appreciate. So I think this is awesome, and this is the kind of thing, I know that's really broad, just be like, hey, we do more stuff like this, but come up with different stuff every time, right? And I'm trying, it's like, they're like, okay, we'll try to come up with something new every time, but this, if you're going to do a special edition, right, do something weird, do something a little bit different. This is neat. I'm sure it's not the first time it's been done, but it is cool. It's different from what we normally see in their line. So I would like to see them continue that. We have a lanyard hole back here for lanyard people, so that's fine. The pocket clip is very simple, but it is milled, which is also nice. I'm really glad they didn't try to pass a stamped titanium clip off. The clip is also extremely functional, has a nice ramp under here, right? In and out of the pocket, very, very easy, no problem there. Nice smooth surfaces. I think that's really pretty much it to talk about as far as the handle goes. This is all just, it's all perfect. I really don't have an issue with any of this. Lockup, we can see here the stop pin is located in its traditional spot. We do have a little bit, in fact, fairly deep shouldering. Yeah, that wraps around there nicely. Absolutely no blade play whatsoever. It is rock solid, which is amazing. Usually when we have this, what I'm doing here is trying to get it to develop like stickiness within the button, and it won't. It is so unbelievably smooth on disengagement, right? There's your little slot right there where the plunge, is it, why am I losing this all of a sudden? Plunge lock? Yeah, that's what it is. The cylindrical plunge lock is sliding into place, right? Which is nice. Plenty strong for what you're going to use it for, and it's very solid. Like I said, no stick, no pivot lash, very, very smooth in here, and a nice click. We never get that with we never get that with, I got too excited and threw it. We don't get this usually with button locks. It's either silent or more of a thud or kind of a blah, right? There's a little click there, which is really nice. We also have absolutely perfect centering with zero detent lash, which is also something that I usually see present on button lock knives. These things come in right around $345, which is a lot of money. We are getting premium materials. We are getting, of course, the materials that you like to see. We are getting a finish that's arguably a little bit more premium on a blade. We're definitely getting some more premium elements, including the carbon fiber wraparound backspacer. Absolutely. And the thing that really sets this apart, outside of it just being a phenomenal tool and, collector's item, conversation piece, it's all of that, really is the incredible action. The action is so good. I would honestly say, if I had 100 people lined up who are kind of skeptical, I could hand this to them. And I feel like 99 out of 100, right? There's always going to be one guy. But 99 of them will be like, yeah, that does at least feel a little different, right? Some people will be blown away by it, and some people will be like, yeah, up against my best button locks, I really feel like this is a little bit better, right? I don't want to speak for everybody, but I'm really confident in saying that. Anybody who has handled this, right, you don't have to take my word for it, but it's really good, right? So, do I think this is priced appropriately? You are definitely paying a premium just because they called it a special edition. Absolutely. Realistically, I think this is probably about a $300 knife. I think that's right about where it makes sense. Then again, it's not like WE's special edition knives generally hold value, but this might be one of them. It's really hard for me to say. I can't project which knives are going to, hold value, but maybe this will be one. I don't know. If you were going to get one, out of all of the special edition WE knives that I have ever handled, this is the only one that made me feel like, yeah, obviously I got this one for free. If you didn't know, yeah, I get knives for free. But if you watch my channel, you know that WE Knives has sent me a ton of stuff for free that I have given negative reviews to or just given ho-hum reviews to, right? A free knife will not buy a good review here. That's just not how it works. But this one is really, really impressive. I can't tell everybody to rush out there and buy this, and it's the best $345 knife I've ever seen, but it is very, very good, and it is certainly the most interesting limited edition WE knife that I have ever handled, and it's very good. Well, as a tool, as a collector's item, whatever you want, right? So, this is a weird one. Because of the price, and it just feels a little bit high, right? And because it's definitely like, this is a collector's piece, right? To collectors, people seeking out, interesting, unique details, people looking for something, special from WE knives, right? It's people like that. I think you guys are really going to enjoy it and see the value in it, right? Other people who kind of put that stuff right up there with, utility, you're definitely going to take it out and use it, right? If you're looking for dollar, like the best function, and maybe some of these other elements matter as much or not quite as much as the utilitarian elements, you might not get as much out of it, right? So it's not a knife that I can recommend to everybody. It is, however, definitely one of my favorite knives that I've ever reviewed on this channel. For that reason, it's going to go in my favorite knives of all time playlist, but not my recommended knives playlist, if that makes sense. I am extremely impressed with this knife, and those who do, go ahead and bite that bullet, I think you're going to be really happy with it. That's as fair as I can possibly be. Thanks again to WE Knives for sending this in. Like I said, I'll have it linked right down below so you guys can check it out if you want to. That's going to be pretty much it for today's review. Please make sure to follow me on Instagram at metal_complex. If you enjoyed this video, leave a like. If you'd like to check out my other content, I do, of course, have lots of videos of knives that are either expensive or inexpensive that I do or don't like, so check those out. And if you enjoy all my content, go ahead and click on that Metal Complex logo right there and subscribe, because there's definitely more coming. Thanks again for watching, everybody, and have a great day.